Moving on to the grooming process. Again at PACE we look to try and put the grooming process in focus of the offender and those that are responsible for the behaviours. So if we look at the beginning of the model, we can see here that the child is identified, and there isn't a tool that identifies or determines which children will be exploited. All the children are vulnerable. Interestingly, Marion Collins released some data that said 75% of children referred to their support service for online abuse were not known to any services. And this isn't the vulnerable that we're often here told to look for, we are often told are known to services or visible to services involvement already, which is interesting in the narrative that we hear said about vulnerable children and grooming. Along with being identified, then the offender sets the context of the relationship. They decide what role the child will take. So as we've just looked at in the different ways, whether that's in a criminal exploitation, sexual exploitation or both. We also see isolation being key. So the offender puts themselves central to everything that goes on within that child's life and often becomes the loudest voice that the child will hear. And often parents report to us that they no longer feel like when the child is talking to them that it's the child's voice speaking, that they can hear the offender speaking. And that's because the offender is just completely encapsulating everything about the child's life. The isolation can be physical or mental when we're talking about the isolation. The mental can be formed when the offender has created the fear that not complying to the orders or wishes would put family members at risk of harm, and ultimately this means that the children don't feel able to share what is happening, and in their mind this is a way to then protect their families. Isolation can also be created by manipulating the child to believe that the relationship is normal and that this is being misunderstood by other adults that are saying that this is an abusive relationship or that this is not right. And this in itself can create a wedge as well, and offenders use this wedge to further create a gap between the child and other safe adults or peers.